All right. What is up, everybody? Isaac here with Civil Engineering Academy. Excited to share another podcast with you in this weird part of the internet. Thankful that you're listening to this stuff. If you found us, appreciate that you're here. Thanks for giving us a like and a subscribe. Share this with a friend. We love all that stuff. It always helps us out. But I'm excited today. I'm going to bring my brother Mark Oakeson back on, a frequent flyer of the show, and we're going to talk about kind of this need that's out there of developing future leaders in companies. And this is probably going to go out near the end or beginning of the new year. And a lot of people in their workplace, maybe you're getting a bonus or a raise in April. Some people get it at the end of the year. It just kind of depends on what company, how they run that. But we're seeing kind of a big need for leadership to be developed within companies. And so we're going to kind of hit that today and talk about developing leaders within your organization, things to look out for, and kind of just tips and tools to help us out develop leadership. So without further ado, let me get to this interview with Mark. He's my subject matter expert on this stuff. So let's get right to it. I'll turn it over. What's up, Mark?
Hey, good. Things are good. Glad to be on again. It's always a good time.
You're my frequent flyer.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
I love it.
Well, I'm excited. We wanted to bring you on, talk about leadership, developing leaders, and all the good stuff that goes into that. It seems to me like in the industry as a whole has many people retiring, and a lot of times institutional knowledge is leaving organizations. So is that kind of what you're seeing out there?
Yeah, I see that. There's an older group of professionals that are moving towards retirement, and it's actually there's a demand. I have individuals within my organization that are, getting almost into their 70s. They usually are taking roles as what we're talking about here. They're kept on so that we have more mentors within the organization that can kind of help the younger engineers improve and learn, some of the things that they need to learn. But a lot of those individuals, they're individuals that have been, they've said, it's time for me to retire, and they actually retire, and then they find out retirement maybe isn't all it's cracked up to be too, Then we're like, oh, hey, you want to come back? We'll take you back, because we can use you as a mentor.
We've had that in my industry as well. People retire and then they discover, I'm bored, man. I need something to keep me going. Yep, part-time work.
Right. So there's that contingency of people, and because the demand is such, and it's just like we're talking about, there's older individuals that have retired, and then there's a fair amount of younger, less seasoned engineers coming in the industry. But it seems like there was a gap created. I don't know if it was probably, I guess, both of our generation. There wasn't quite the number of professionals coming out of the universities, trained as civil engineers that wanted to get into the business. I think most STEM pursuits by college students probably went into the computer science and the coding and the computer related fields, I think, primarily for quite a while there. And so it created a little bit of a gap, I would say. And I think that's changing from at least my perspective. I think that's changing a little bit because the demand is building up on the construction, the architect, engineer, construction engineer, the AEC side of the business or the industry, and that demand is there, and so wages are getting to be such that it's attracting more people to want to get into the engineering field, and so we're seeing some of that field. But with that said, there's this gap that we're talking about, right? So some of the older folks are staying on a little bit longer if they want to serve as mentors, which isn't a full, you don't give them a full plate of responsibility that they probably had before they retired, but it's still a valuable role that they can play to help mentor some of the younger
Yeah.
folks.
I mean, my experience, I work in the utility world. There was a time when I was starting my career that they just like weren't hiring very many people. And then because of that, there was a big gap. So when people started leaving, they started realizing that we got a problem and we need to. And a lot of times companies are like way too late in the gap of let's hire somebody and train them versus a guy retires and then we hire somebody. And so now you've lost the mentorship of passing a torch to somebody because you didn't want to hire when they were here.
Right.
So that bothers me, but that happens all the time in our world. So anyway, I think it's important to develop leaders. I'm sure you have been a recipient of becoming a leader within your industry. One of the biggest questions I have is, a lot of guys that are and gals that are out there in this industry, how do we connect performance reviews? We're probably the day we're recording this, we're still in 2024, but this is probably going to go out in 25. So people have probably had a performance review, but how do you tie a performance review to leadership development? And is it better to be more focused on like technical output, or is it let's be at long-term growth potential?
Yeah, it needs to be balanced. So I have individuals that work for me that I can see that have leadership potential. Some of those individuals have to kind of be coaxed, or they got to kind of be pushed in that direction too. Challenged, yeah, because they don't want to necessarily gravitate towards that for various reasons. There's you can as somebody who's part of a team, maybe a subordinate, as part of a team, they can see a lot of times the pressures that a leader has to assume and the responsibilities that a leader has to assume in that leadership role, and maybe they see that as formidable, right? They don't want to do that necessarily. But I've seen a lot of individuals that I've helped identify and tried to help develop, that you kind of got to coax them in that direction a little bit. And once they get a taste for it and they can see, oh, I've got the skills to do this and I can handle this and this isn't that bad. They kind of gravitate towards the leadership role more and more, and then they assume more and more of those responsibilities. But as you're doing your yearly reviews, and you have to kind of structure, and every company's different, but I found that the way your bonus is structured is kind of highlights the values that your company has, right? So if you're valuing, if like every company has a way they calculate an employee's bonus, right? It's got different weighted values. They get determining how much the bonus, how much is going to be allocated towards bonuses, and then they weight that based on the values of the company. In my organization, like safety is highly valued, right? So your safety record plays a significant portion of your bonus, and then your technical abilities might weigh in, and then how much training you receive during the year. By way of seminars, or maybe you took special courses to enhance your skills. There's a weight that's placed on that portion of your bonus. And so I think, weighting your bonuses, that's based on your value. If you value mentoring new leaders, right, within your organization, maybe those leadership skills, the training and stuff that, or maybe it's fostering that, I'll call it a mentor protege kind of a relationship. Your bonuses need to be like structured so that those things are incentivized, if that makes sense. And then those individuals that, everybody wants a decent bonus every year. That's what we want. Those individuals that are kind of in that pipeline, that leadership pipeline, they understand what the values of the company are. They they value me learning these leadership skills, and so that's the direction I'm going to go in, and it kind of helps feed the pipeline.
So I have a few questions. I want to back up a little bit. So we mentioned some of the challenges in developing leaders, and one of those was identifying potential leaders.
Yeah.
Um, are when we're sitting down with somebody, say an end of year review, are you is it better to be blunt and telling them that you've pegged them as a potential leader, we want you to be a leader, or is it something I've also seen on the other side where people have like succession planning develop, and they've listed people that aren't even fully aware that they're even on the plan. And if they're on the plan, like, what are we doing to help me get there?
Right.
On there.
Well, I've had success on both approaches, Isaac. It's funny. It depends on the individual. Those individuals that I was talking about that kind of need a push in the right direction, like they're a little bit apprehensive, coming out and telling them you're in the leadership program or whatever your company calls it. You're in the pipeline to be a leader. That might freak them out. I don't want to do that, and they want to back off from that. But then I have also people that work for me that they need that specifically, right? They need that confirmation that, yep, there's a future for me here. I'm being kind of I'm being trained as a future leader, and so and they like that. They eat that up, right? So it just, I don't know. In my experience, it depends on the individual, what type of person that they are,
Yeah, and probably what they want to, right?
and what they want to. Yeah,
There's different tracks that every engineer can kind of take, and if you want to stay in an engineering role, there's a track for that. Become maybe a principal leader in that engineering field, or more of a management role would be another different avenue. So
yeah. I'm just thinking of. I got several individuals I can think of in my current organization that when I first started, I kind of identified them as potential leaders. And when I approached them about that, like, hey, you got the right stuff, man. You could potentially be a leader. And then their immediate response was like, whoa, hold on, I don't want to do that. But as the years have gone on and I've added responsibility to these individuals, they've realized, oh, I can handle this. And then they get another responsibility. Oh, I can do this. And now they've kind of naturally just moved into these leadership roles that I wanted them to have in the first place, but it just kind of happened naturally,
yeah.
They weren't like forced into that.
In terms of challenges, what I kind of see out there, especially maybe in the consulting world, is this ability to just kind of bounce around a lot. Whoever may be offering the most pay at the time is kind of where people head, but I'm sure that's tied to company culture and how people want to stay, if a culture is good or whatnot. So I don't know. Have you had any challenges with dealing with employees bouncing around at all?
Yeah, I have had to deal with that. I've had employees that leave and they find out the grass isn't so green on the other side, right, of the fence. And they're calling me back. I want to come back. And then I bring them back, and then they find another place and they leave me again. And then they call me back again. The grass isn't so green on this side either. They want to come back. And it really wears you out as a manager. You're like, dude, you can't just do all this hopping around. It's not there has to be, I don't know, there has to be some kind of
loyalty,
loyalty, but just some stability in that, it's not all about how much money you make. I'm not saying that a firm's wages don't need to be competitive. They do, right?
Yeah.
They always got to be competitive and in the range. But people take different recognition as compensation as well. If you're giving appropriate, recognition to your team for achievements, and that can come by way of bonuses like we're talking about here, but it doesn't have to be a monetary type reward. A lot of people in my industry, they get recognized in different aspects, different maybe industry awards that are received and different things. But within a company, a person that gets just simple recognition, and it can be simple. We used to do gift cards, right,
Yeah.
for jobs well done. I just went to a local restaurant that I knew the guys on my team liked to frequent, and I just bought a bunch of gift cards. And whenever something good happened, I was like, "Good job, here's $20 to your favorite restaurant." Just simple stuff like that, where the individuals on your team like recognize that they're valued, that um, what the extra efforts that they take are recognized. I mean, just stuff like that helps with retention and keeping good people around. And so it's not always about monetary rewards. Sometimes it's just a simple little recognition
Oh yeah, I agree.
that gets you past that kind of stuff.
I think where I'm at, we have a simple rewards program, but I'm always surprised how unfrequent people use it. They don't use it very frequently. So when you do use it, it is kind of like, oh wow,
Yeah.
thanks for doing that.
Yep.
And I think it's also to give praise sometimes when it's appropriate with your team. Like when you're all in a team, we want to recognize this person. That's also kind of a good way to do that at a cheap cost, but or if with a gift card or whatever. But yeah, there's good ways to do that. Keep people engaged in what they're doing, where they're at, and feeling appreciated.
Yeah.
For what they're doing.
So I think those kind of things are the biggest, probably, I don't know, deterrent from big turnover.
Yeah.
It's not necessary. I mean, your compensation needs to be competitive. That's has to happen. But if you're at competitive levels with your industry, that extra effort to recognize good performance, that's really huge in retention, keeping good employees around. And then if you can identify those that need those leadership tracks, right, and then telling them, hey, you're the guy, you're the one that is on this leadership track, then they know that that's their potential, and they'll stick around. And then even the ones that I mentioned that don't know it yet, you're just trying to mentor and give them additional responsibilities, and as they realize they can do the job, then they kind of move into that. It helps those guys too. So
Good deal. So I'm curious about strategies to help cultivate future leaders. Specifically, like what programs do you, do you have in place where you're helping somebody to become a leader outside of the normal daily responsibilities? Do you offer any programs, mentorship, leadership training, any of that stuff to help someone become a leader?
Yeah, mostly it's leadership training. And so the industry I'm in is, I mean, it's saturated with training from all of the industry organizations, your ACIs and your AISCs, and all the industry organizations that are in the construction industry. They just We're like overrun with training opportunities and learning opportunities. And so we, just as a baseline for pretty much everybody, is if you feel like you need training in a certain area or you want additional training in a certain area, hey, we'll pay for whatever classes, whatever extra training that you want. And it's interesting when you offer that, you'll see certain people that'll step into that, and you can see that they're motivated to learn and progress. And they're the ones that actually, from my experience, they're the ones that take advantage of that mentor protege relationship a lot more, because they see themselves as that protege, that's still trying to learn the ropes, and they're hungry to learn everything about the industry, and they grab onto those opportunities. And so it's kind of in my organization, it's kind of a way to filter out those guys that are leaders versus maybe those that don't necessarily want to take that leadership track.
The company I'm with has really pushed the Six Sigma belts, green belt, etc., which kind of teaches leadership skills as well and helping processes be improved and such. So I'm
Mm.
sure there's just a ton of programs that are out there for people. So um, we won't dive into those kind of things. Just know that
Well, just as
you
an
as an
example,
employee,
Isaac, like I've got a lot of my team members going to the Post Tensioning Institute. They've got there's a they come to town every Salt Lake City is where we're located, and it's not a one of the larger markets per se, and so PTI comes less frequently here, but they're coming to town in April, and so I just put it out there. They're coming to town. Anybody that wants to do the training, um,
let me know.
let me know. We're paying for it, and we're actually paying you to go to the course, right? We're still paying your salary for you to go to the course, and it's interesting. You can kind of see the response from that, and it helps you identify those individuals that they're hungry to learn more and to grow in their roles. And so I had, in fact, most of my team accepted it. And there's different levels of training with PTI, and so most of them accepted the level 1 training. And then there's like a core group of about 5 individuals that said, "Yeah, I want to do the level 2 training as well." And within those extra 5 guys, I mean, there's people in there that I have identified that these individuals could be leaders. And so that's, I don't know, just kind of an example, an anecdote of what I see as a manager when
Yeah.
training opportunities come up.
And I think it's tied to company culture. So if you're an engineer that's out there working, maybe you should be asking yourself, what does your culture look like for training opportunities at all levels, really? How are they helping you move into higher positions, learning more, etc.? So I think every company probably has their own little program. Um, People probably say a lot of stuff, but when you're actually there, maybe you're not seeing it. But hopefully you're feeling that you're getting opportunities to grow in the positions that you need. So we know leadership's important. Why do you think now it's more important than maybe ever as we're looking to the future?
Well, it's important because if we don't create this continuity, we'll have this gap that we've talked about at the first of our program here. We'll have another one that'll be I mean, it's detrimental to the industry when you get these gaps. And so you have to keep the younger generation motivated to move up through these leadership roles, so that those gaps are filled. And so it's just important, that you've got as a manager, you're identifying, you're training, you're always and this is what I was always taught, when I was coming up through the ranks, in my career, was that you're always training the people that work for you. You're always training them to replace you, and you shouldn't be you shouldn't see that as like a threat to your job, right? It's this mentor protege thing that I'm talking about. You're training that next generation, but as a manager, you should never see that as a threat to your own job. And I know that that's a common thing within office politics and culture that happens. You get people that are very territorial.
Both sides of that. So
Yeah, and they're trying to be protective of their position, and they think that not training somebody that works for them is part of that protection, right? But that's really not the right attitude to have. It should be, let's get everybody in the boat on this. We're a team. Um, as a manager, you're not more important than anybody else. You just have to take the lead, and you have to make some of the lead out decisions, but you're still trying to train everybody to get up to your level. You're always trying to train your replacement, is what I've always been taught. And that served me well in the way I approach, bringing people up through the ranks. And it's always, as a manager, it's nice when somebody that works for you can take some of your responsibilities. They're at a competency level where you can trust them and they can take over, and it really relieves the burden that's on you, right, as a manager,
Oh yeah.
because you can delegate. So it's really the best way to go. So,
Good tips, good advice. I think if you are an engineering firm that's out there, just recognize that this is more than maybe an HR initiative. It's really a really strategic business move, and really is imperative to have a program in place where you're developing people, and tie it to performance reviews and ensure bonuses are attributed appropriately to match that. So a good question maybe to ask yourself is, maybe what's one thing that you could add to performance reviews or end of year bonuses to better recognize and align those things for leadership development. And maybe that would be a good thing to do. And if you don't have that as an employee or an engineer out there working, maybe that's something you should bring up to your manager as to why we're not developing those skills you need to. So
yeah, and as a manager, that wouldn't be offensive to me if I had a subordinate that brought that up. I think sometimes as a subordinate, you'd worry, oh man, maybe I shouldn't even bring that up. But to me, if an individual did that, it would be like, oh, all right, this person's on the ball.
yeah.
They're on top of it.
And sometimes those are situations, at least that I have seen in my career, that maybe not be so formal. They could be, it's not maybe a class that we've got scheduled and booked, and you need to say you're going to attend, but maybe they just came up to you and said, "Here's an example. Hey, we need a drone program, and we need you to go get your license." And you need to figure out how to get this thing, and you just go do it. You go learn how to do it. You go take the exam, and you kind of learn to stand up a program like that. But that could apply to anything. So it could be something outside of a formal training or something. It could be something individualized to you.
Yeah,
We want you to go learn this, and
that's perfect. If an individual identifies a need within a team, right? There's a gap here. I need to learn how to fly this drone. I need to get FAA certified, whatever is required. I see a need there, and I'm willing to jump in and fill it. I mean, that's perfect attitude to have.
Yep. Okay. Well, good. Well, any other tips, whether performance reviews or leadership tips, that we haven't hit yet?
Just if you are a mentor, just keep those things in mind. Don't be threatened about keeping the pipeline full and training those people that report to you to replace you eventually. Don't make that a threatening thing. And then if you are a subordinate, make sure that I would say your desires for leadership are made known so that you can take advantage of those opportunities, that training opportunities. But also, like you just identified, if you recognize any needs that are within the team that you're working within, man, jump in and fill those needs. Be willing to get that extra training and jump in and complete those tasks, because those are the things that managers they see and
they note that stuff.
Yeah, they love
who raised their hand, who took it on.
Yeah, those are the guys that get identified as leader. Not all of them. I mean, there's the types that, like I was talking about, that kind of need to be coaxed into the positions, and once they realize they can do it, then they're really good leaders. But they have to have to have the path paved before them a little bit more. But yeah,
okay. Well, good tips, good resources, good advice. Whether you're a firm that needs to offer, or manager that needs to offer leadership, or you're on the flip side, an engineer trying to develop to become a leader, I think there's a lot of good stuff we just hit. So, Mark, appreciate you jumping on and sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, always a good time.
Okay, we'll see you in the future, I'm sure.
See ya.
See ya.